Petr Yan versus Aljamain Sterling takes place this weekend in the feature fight of UFC 259. Blachowicz versus Adesanya in the Bantamweight World Championship is on the line. I can't wait for this Bantamweight bout. The title is being defended by Petr Yan against Aljamain Sterling, the Funkmaster. But in my opinion, this is kind of for the vacant Bantamweight World Championship. And also, I said this was in the feature fight of the card. This is basically the co-main event of this weekend, because I'll tell you this right now, before I even get into my prediction, no one cares about Nunes versus Anderson. We all care about Yan versus Sterling, and I've cared about this for a very long time. In fact, it got rescheduled, and I'm glad it got rescheduled, because if this was happening last year, I might still be picking Petr Yan, and now I've flipped over to pick Aljamain Sterling, done my research, I've been flicking back and forth on who I'm picking for this fight for the longest time now. It's pretty even. I think we can all agree that no one's going to pick one guy to completely dominate the other one, start to finish, and brutalize them. I think we can all agree. A very competitive fight in the Bantamweight division. I think this is basically about for the real Bantamweight World Champion and the co-main event of this weekend. Let's just say it how it is. But I feel like both of these men this weekend are going to decide who the real best bantamweight in the world is. And I would consider the winner of this one the true bantamweight world champion. I kind of don't see Yan as a champ right now. I know he beat Jose Aldo for a belt, and they tried to play this whole situation where Aldo actually beat Moraes. Aldo didn't beat Moraes, in my opinion. I thought he lost rounds 1 and 3. You can go back and watch it. I thought Moraes stole round 3 from Jose Aldo with a couple of extra significant strikes, but whatever. All good. They made it for the belt. It happened this way anyway, and I'm glad that it's happening now, and they should be kind of thankful that the bout got rescheduled, because now they're at UFC 259, and this card is so stacked. I just feel like Aljamain Sterling's going to beat Petr Yan, and I didn't think this way a couple of months ago or even a couple of weeks ago, but I've done my research in Aljamain Sterling's career, and he's had a much rougher time of it than Petr Yan has. Petr Yan's resume on the way to a Bantamweight World Championship is a very, very different resume than Aljamain Sterling's, and I think Aljamain has fought all of the better opponents as he has gone along, and in my opinion, looked better against those opponents, even with some common opponents between them. Aljamain's done it better than Petr Yan has, and I know that people are going to be picking Petr Yan here. I know a lot of people are picking Petr Yan, but I know a lot of the media personalities and the fighters are picking Aljamain Sterling, because I feel like a lot of the fighters kind of like Aljamain Sterling. They get along with him more. He's an English speaker, so all of the English speaking fighters are probably going to pick him because they know him, they've trained with him, they've met him backstage at fights, they've got along with him. I feel like a lot of the media members and the fighters are biased towards Aljo just because they don't know who Yan is and they haven't spoken to him before. However, I feel like as a fan, I'm still going to go with Aljamain Sterling here, even though it seems like the majority of fans are going with Petr Yan destroying him. I think we can all agree this is a very competitive bout. Looking forward to this one. I think Aljamain Sterling's going to go out there and get the submission in the 3rd round via standing rear naked choke over Petr Yan. I think he's going to be grappling with him. I don't think he's going to be getting Petr Yan down to the ground and getting mounts and getting his back and punching him out or anything like that, or taking mount and landing good elbows, ground and pound. I don't see any of those situations happening, but what I do see is Aljo pinning Yan against the cage quite a bit, stomping on the toes, kneeing to the fire, bringing him down towards the canvas. Yan's on one knee against the cage, looking to get back up, but Aljo's got the body lock and he's just pushing all of his weight into him. I can see a lot of that happening in this bout, and I think that Aljamain's going to go out there, be crazy aggressive on Petr Yan and put Petr Yan on the back foot early, land a lot of volume, throw a lot of volume in general, try and make it messy, throw a different amount of techniques and a different variety of techniques that Yan's not going to be used to. In all honesty, I don't think he's going to be used to guys throwing front kicks the way that Aljamain Sterling does, or just winging crazy head kicks, or landing a jab and then he settles down, then he throws a lead leg side kick or something, and then he spins around and throws a back fist to someone, like he dropped Jimmy Rivera with a back fist in their bout as well. And we'll talk about the Jimmy Rivera performances in a second, because those are two very different performances to have against Jimmy Rivera, and I think that's a very key factor here in this fight that not a lot of people are looking at. I'm going to be picking Aljamain Sterling, and I think eventually when Yan's against the cage and Aljo's pushing him there, I think Yan's going to get up away from Aljo, stand up, be frustrated, and just use a lot of strength to get himself up to his feet. And I think in that moment, Aljo's going to take the back standing, get the rear naked choke, and finish Petr Yan in the third round by submission. I know this is a very dangerous fight. Petr Yan is a very, very savage man. I've watched the Embedded episode, and I got chills up my spine when they introduced him by doing all of those cinematic shots of like the water falling back into the ice hole or whatever it was. I don't even know what was going on. The tide was leaving as Yan walked out into the beach. It was like some weird satanic demonic shit, in all honesty. It really was terrifying, but I do believe that Aljamain Sterling's got the remedy here. He's got the reach advantage of 4 inches, which is going to be huge for him in my opinion, and I just feel like he's such an enigma and a crazy kind of style of fighter that Yan's not going to be used to that. Yan likes technique. Aldo, Jimmy Rivera, these guys in front of him that he can pick apart, figure out, and then get afterwards. Faber threw a lot of unorthodox techniques, and Faber was doing quite well against Petr Yan as well. However, when Yan fights, I feel like he likes things to be perfect, he likes things to be technical, so he can counter the way he wants to, and make it look really pretty with all of his combinations and his straight shots, and his nice jab, and his lead left hook to the body, and his kicks as well. I just feel like Aljamain Sterling's not going to give him those patterns, and he's going to be a little bit too unorthodox, and it's going to be hard for Yan to figure him out. And I think that combined with Aljamain's volume is going to be a huge problem for Yan, because he's going to be waiting for his counter shot, and Aljo's going to tap him at the leg, front kick him, jab, 2, spinning back fist, head kick, body kick, leg kick again. Like the volume that Aljo showed against Pedro Munoz, 15 minutes, 174 significant strikes landed. He almost landed more than Yan. He was 20 away from Yan, but Yan had 5 rounds, including that 5th round against Jose Aldo, where it was literally just punch, 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 punch. Aljamain Sterling's output in these bouts is ridiculous. I think I can trust him to go 5 rounds, seeing as he matched the majority of fighters' 5-round outputs during a 3-round bout. I think he can push that pace into the later rounds if he needs them, but I think in round 3, Yan's going to be a little bit unhappy with being volumed against the cage, trying to defend takedowns. He's going to be defending them very well. I don't think Aljo's going to get him to the ground, but I think he's going to try and shake Aljo off of him, leave his back exposed. Aljo's going to capitalize and get the rear naked choke. I just think it's going to be a very interesting fight on the feet as well, and I think Aljo could maybe get the better of him. Longer legs, longer arms, a much bigger guy in general, which we need to talk about, because I know it says they're both 5'6", but it also says that Rosenstruik and Garn are both 6'4". The heights are wrong. The $4 billion company doesn't have tape measures. Aljo's going to be bigger than Yan out there. Okay, I'm just going to point out, Aljo's going to be a considerably much bigger man than Petr Yan. Aljamain is arguably the biggest bantamweight outside of Sandhagen, and even with Aljo's thickness, I think he's a little bit thicker than Corey Sandhagen, who's a bit of a tall, skinny guy for the division, so I think it's good weight that he has. He's got a lot of reach as well. I think he's going to use that size and volume against Yan this weekend, and I just think he's fought better opponents. Look at the Jimmy Rivera fight, though, to look at common opponents. Aljamain Sterling destroyed him. No controversy whatsoever. Destroyed Jimmy Rivera, ran through him like he was nothing to him. Start to finish, every single round, dominate, 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 dominate. Yan was being Yan was being beaten by Jimmy Rivera until he caught him at the end of those rounds. Now, I do believe that it was in Yan's game plan to eventually close down Jimmy Rivera against the cage and land the big shots that he knew would be there because he was figuring out Jimmy Rivera. I do give him that credit, but again, Aljo didn't need to figure him out. He just had him. Started a fight, as soon as it started, Aljo was too good for him. You look at the Pedro Munoz bout. Pedro Munoz has bounced back really well as well. He's not some older guy on the slide. He's still doing well. He arguably beat Frankie Edgar in his last bout, and he just beat Jimmy Rivera as well last weekend. So, all of Aljamain Sterling's wins are looking really good in hindsight, and I don't know how good Petr Yan's wins are looking, in all honesty, when I look through Petr Yan's resume. Aldo. Great fighter, don't get me wrong. Still got it, of course, but a very, very close fight with Marlon Vera. If Marlon Vera lands 2 more leg kicks in rounds 1 and 2 of that fight, he might win those first 2 rounds. Like, they already gave him a round of those early rounds. Marlon Vera, real close fight with Jose Aldo. You look at Uriah Faber. What has Uriah Faber done since fighting Petr Yan? Absolutely nothing, and he was an older guy in the first place that shouldn't have maybe really even been in there against Petr Yan, in all honesty. John Dodson, completely done. No longer fighting as far as I'm aware. Maybe he's in another promotion, but he's out of the UFC now. You look at Jimmy Rivera, just lost to Pedro Munoz, has lost some other fights as well. Douglas Silva de Andrade, Done. Jinsu Song. I don't know. I don't know where he is. Teruto Ishihara. These names on Petr Yan's resume, they haven't gone on to do anything, so it doesn't really hold great significance when I'm looking at these resumes leading up to this fight, because when you look at Aljamain Sterling's, Corey Sandhagen, look at what he just went on to do in that division. And I know it sounds crazy because Sandhagen's been ridiculously active since that loss to Aljamain Sterling, but Corey Sandhagen has won 2 great fights since then and had 2 great performances and 2 great finishes, making Aljamain Sterling's win look even better. You look at the Pedro Munoz bout, he just beat Jimmy Rivera quite handily as well, by the way, in a close scrappy fight, don't get me wrong. He arguably beat Frankie Edgar as well. I think that was one of the biggest robberies of all time, other than Christian versus Jacoby. However, look at the other wins that he has on his resume. Cody Stamann has gone on to do quite well. I like Aljamain Sterling here to go out there and get the job done against Yan. I think people are massively underrating his stand-up, especially because in fights, it doesn't matter how technical you are. If you're just out there grinding and throwing and constantly putting something in your opponent's face and constantly having a work rate, it can beat the very pretty looking combinations because they're just pretty looking combinations. I don't think it tells the tale of who the better striker is just because someone's a little bit more technical. I feel like the guy who's out there doing better striking against other opponents is the better striker, regardless of their technique. No, it's MMA. If you have a striking style that seems to work against everyone, including Jimmy Rivera, who Yan had a lot of problems with on the feet, and I know that styles make fights, but I'm still going to look at that, very much so indeed. In the second round of Rivera versus Sterling, Sterling outlanded him 48-9. Yan got outlanded 21-7 in the first round, 32-8 in the third. He pushes a hard pace, he hits hard. I think he's going to chop at the legs of Yan early and stay on the outside, eventually ushering him against the cage with some volume combinations, front kicks to push him backwards, things like this, a lot of jabs as well with that reach advantage. And I think he's going to grind Yan against the cage until Yan gets sick of defending and gets frustrated, and Aljo's going to capitalize and take his back standing whenever Yan turns his back against the cage to get back up on a sloppy takedown defense. And I think Aljo's going to secure a rear naked choke in the third round. Very close fight. Yan could go out there and catch Aljo early and put him in trouble because Yan has that kind of power at bantamweight. But then again, does Yan have that kind of power at bantamweight? Because Jimmy Rivera seems to get hurt by a lot of opponents, and Petr Yan has knocked down a lot of bantamweights, don't get me wrong, but who really has he KO'd badly other than Teruto Ishihara in his career? I know the Aldo fight was a TKO, and the Faber fight, he got him with a head kick. Fair play. It's a bit of an older Faber, okay, who we've seen take his damage in his career overall. But still, it's a Uriah Faber fight. He beat Uriah Faber by TKO. But other than Uriah Faber and Teruto Ishihara, the Aldo fight was a TKO, and kind of mainly because Aldo just completely gasses out in every fight if it goes past the third round. Let's just say it how it is. I called that fight to happen. I said Yan would TKO him in the later rounds. That's just kind of how Aldo fights work if he hasn't got only 3 rounds to fight someone in. However, other than that, I don't see Yan KOing Aljamain Sterling. He couldn't KO Jimmy Rivera. He had him in a lot of trouble, don't get me wrong. He couldn't put away John Dodson. In fact, John Dodson even dropped him in that fight, even though Yan clearly won the fight, don't get me wrong. Dodson dropped him in that fight, put him in bad trouble. Douglas Silva de Andrade, Yan beat the hell out of him, but he quit on the stall. I feel like people are overestimating Yan's power, and I think Aljo's going to do quite well out there, investing early, landing lead kicks, landing body kicks, not doing too much punch exchanges with Yan. And I think he's going to get him against the cage, grind him out, and just wear him down until the submission presents itself. And the winner of this one, I don't even know. If Aljo wins, as I think he does, I don't want to see that Sandhagen rematch yet. You know what I mean? Like, as much as I feel like Sandhagen's earned his shot at the title, I don't want to see that Sandhagen fight. And I feel like if Aljo wins, maybe he's going to look for a Dillashaw bout because he's already beat Sandhagen. He's beat other guys like Pedro Munoz in the division as well, who's now got a big win and bounce back. There aren't many big names other than maybe a Garbrandt Aldo or a Garbrandt Rob Font winner to really chuck into the mix for a title right now. So we're in a little bit of a tricky situation at bantamweight, but if Yan wins, I definitely want to see the Corey Sandhagen matchup. Even if Aljo wins, I want to see the Corey Sandhagen matchup. I don't know what I'm talking about, but I feel like Aljo's going to go out there and get the job done, man. Got a real good feeling about this one. I think he's going to put the volume on him, beat him up a little bit, and I think people are going to be very surprised by what they see because I've watched a lot of their old fights. Aljo is basically 20-1 or 21-1 right now in his career. When you look back through Aljamain Sterling's career, other than the KO loss to Marlon Moraes, which again, we'll talk about that one, that is such a No, I know people don't like this word in MMA. He was going for a kick, you know? And then Aljo closes the distance, gets caught with the knee as he's closing the distance, and he goes out cold. Like, yes, it's a great win, don't get me wrong, but like, what if he shoots that takedown a half a second before Marlon Moraes starts charging up that kick that was meant for a body kick? It looked like anyway to land with the shin, and he ends up going into the knee and going down and getting KO'd. I understand that he lost that fight, but still, you look through his other losses. He beat Rafael Assunção, and not only did he beat Rafael Assunção, in my opinion, he beat him while fighting through so many groin shots that Assunção landed on him that the referee just refused to step in for. Aljo was fighting through, getting his groin kicked in that fight, and still got it done against a prime Rafael Assunção, the same as Assunção at one point beat Masvidal, okay? We're talking about real talented guys that Aljo's run through in his career. He definitely beat Assunção. The only real loss of his career is Brian Caraway, and if that fight was scored today, Aljamain wins that fight with Brian Caraway, because Caraway just control timed him at the end of the rounds, and Aljo outlanded him in significant strikes. Aljo would have been given that fight if it was scored today. The Assunção fight was a robbery, and the Moraes one, he kind of dived into a knee that wasn't even meant to land. He's very good, man, and I think he's going to win this weekend. Like and subscribe, click that button up there. Toodle Pippington. I'll see you later.